all day I've been thinking about, was I going to say something today? If I'm going to say something, what will I say? So we look back 16 years ago on that dark day of September 11th. We just listened to the president's speech from today. It's very special. First of all, it's a wonderful thing to have YouTube, because you turn on the radio, you're going to hear a few words here and there. You're not going to hear the whole speech, usually. And you go on YouTube and you can see who the president really is and not what the media paints him as. But that's not what I want to talk about today. He spoke about how our differences were so much smaller then, and our altruism was so much greater. Now, I remember where I was. I'm sure most people who were alive then and at an age where they could remember things remembered exactly where they were when they heard what happened. I remember my reactions. I remember thinking to myself, well, all right, so a plane hit the Empire State Building in the 30s. It didn't knock it down. The World Trade Center was bombed in 93. I remember when that happened also. It didn't knock it down. I was shocked to hear what happened. I was not in America at the time. I was in Jerusalem. And, and I heard, planes hit the World Trade Center. Of course, the difference, between in the 30s, they had the little propeller planes, and so a plane hitting the Empire State Building, that wasn't. It was a small plane, wasn't going to do damage. A big jet plane with the jet fuel and everything, of course, had the power to destroy much more. Especially, this was a plane that had just taken off, so it had a lot more fuel. I think they picked a plane that was going very far. That's not what I want to talk about either. But although it's the memory that I had and the reactions that I remember, I felt the reactions. I was learning in Or Sameach at the time. I found the reactions from the rabbis very, very distasteful. One rabbi, I really felt, maybe I shouldn't even repeat these things. I'm debating, but it hurt my feelings very much hearing these things. And it still hurts my feelings. And at that time I realized how proud I am to be an American. I know I'm not an Israeli. Judaism is my religion. I'm not an Israeli. I have a religious devotion to the Holy Land, but not a political one. My political ties are to this country. Why? Because of the greatness of its Constitution, which we'll be celebrating in a few days. The freedoms and liberties that we enjoy in this country. And I realized then and there what America means to me, because I was frankly highly, highly offended. I'm not a person that gets offended very easily, but I was very, very much offended by the reactions to several rabbis in Or Sameach. I'm not going to repeat. One, he's South African, so you can't blame him for not having a good feel for America, but very distasteful, very, very offensive. Another one, a rabbi who since passed away, who wouldn't tend to run to eschatology, interpreted it very much in the terms of eschatology. He brought up Malbim, discussing different eschatological issues. Also, I didn't think it was the time or the place. And I remember Eschatoyan Imazgra Ayoim. Back then, I went. My kids shouldn't hear. I went to the Koisel. So Friday night, I remember I davened by the Koisel, and usually someone will invite you home, and nobody invited me. And then I daven already, hang around, kind of looking for what to do. And Ayid Chaim David Sarachik, he's a famous singer. He came. I went up to him and I told him, I'm a chassid of Moshe Weinberger. At the time, that's what I used to say. Now, if you ask me, I'll say my Rebbe is the Kalaver Rebbe. That's what I say now. At the time, that's what I said. And I know Chaim David Sarachik, Zolgazut Zayin, he's a big chassid of Moshe Weinberger. That I know. And they're close friends. And even though he usually doesn't stop people over to his house, he invited me. And he found out he had to check with his wife. They're not so quick to have guests over, but he was very happy to have me. And he told me how he heard the Rebbe, Rabbi Weinberger in Woodmere, was very broken about this. I think his reaction to what happened at the time were much more down to earth. And I remember, he gave Shirim Chizik afterwards. There was a government program that was giving to churches and synagogues, different houses of worship, for sermons, to sponsor sermons for the community. And so I remember he had such a program in his shul that Rabbi Weinberger, I don't remember what he said at the time, but I remember what these other rabbis say, which I don't want to repeat. But one was comparing the casualties in Israel. The South African one, he said, now they know how it feels. I don't know. I shouldn't repeat that. I don't know. I was very upset. I was very upset that he said that. I almost wanted to leave yeshiva over that. I was so shocked. But I didn't know where else I would go. And I wanted to stay in Yerushalayim until the end of the Zman, as long as I could stay. I never had a dream that I was going to go move to Israel. Maybe when I was younger, even then, always, when I would go to, I knew I would go learn in Yerushalayim. I didn't think I would settle there permanently. I always knew I'd come back to America. And so I had a strong feel. And I remember, so Shabbos, right? That was a Tuesday when that happened. So I remember that Shabbos, I was still feeling, very distraught. And it was just before Rosh Hashanah. And I said to Chaim David Sarachik, I said, after I leave his home for the Suda, I was going to Tol Sefer Yitzchak to the Tish to be mamtik the dinam, to sweeten the judgments. It's a Kabbalistic terminology. So Reb Chaim David, he said, this is a real chassid. He's going to be mamtik the dinam. So that's just my memories then. And I was listening to Glenn Beck this morning, and he was talking about all of our broken promises. And he said, and he spoke about promises the American government broke. But he said instead of focusing on that, he wanted to focus on the broken promises of our own lives. And certainly something to reflect on. Now it's Elul. I remember Rabbi Weinberger, he had a few people from his shul who passed away, who were murdered on September 11th by these terrorists. He had members of his own shul. I remember such a thing. This was very personal for him, and I think I listened on the phone to something from him, and he said, his kids were scared every time a plane flew over, I remember that the Yerushalmi kids, they were nervous. They said, Belz has such a beautiful Bismedrash. They were nervous that the Belzer Bismedrash would be a target. And then I remember, I think I went to go hear David Gottlieb, and I don't know, the way students talk and the way people say things. Reb David Zolgazan was very, I think it was Reb David Gottlieb, maybe it was someone else who was giving a shir, and they said something of the Inyan of Gamzu Latova, Kolman David, Rachman Latav Avid, everything that God does is for the good. And so how do you understand something like this? And so he pointed out that it doesn't say it is good, it says it's for the good. So he said, maybe, that it's for the good means people, their lives, their spiritual lives were improved from this horrible experience. So then one of the Bachrim there, he said, so maybe we could say it is good. And I said, no. So Reb David, he's a big Chacham, and he's a big Balkishran. Reb David said, no, of course not. That we can't say. Not that it is good. It's for the good, that there is some good that came out of it, but it's not good itself. It's only for the good. In itself was not good. And now, when we look back, 16 years later, how much of that is left, I don't know. But when we hear these stories of the bravery of people, the story that the president told about this man, and he survived, and he spent 36 hours rescuing people. He personally carried out 8 people, and he rescued another 20 people just by the sound of his voice. This should give us encouragement and strength and inspiration, and we should be worthy to see no more sorrows. And we can have the positive aspects of eschatology like we spoke about before. We should be worthy to see Mashiach Tzidkenu Meher V'Meir Omer.